So as a vocalist, obviously you said you're sending files back and forth. What's your tech setup at home and how do you work by yourself when you're collaborating?
So I think it's more process based. Like honestly, I we were like laughing about it the other day because you can tell which songs were recorded like under a blanket into the computer mic, and like and no shade, that it's a great life. So I have this legendary podcast mic. What is it? The Shure SM7B, with a little pop filter and a little preamp. Thank you, Thomas FR. And an Apogee One that a friend gave me that's like very old school. It's like they don't even make this model anymore. The new one is much sexier. Um, and I record into Logic. And then I personally like to use a lot of guitar effects on my voice. So if I have the option, that's what I'm doing. Like that's um, kind of the vocal chain that I like to go through is mostly guitar effects. But that's because I'm like really bad at mixing my own material and make somebody else deal with it. um, so I think finding a setup that you're comfortable with, but it's really like I for a long time I was very anxious about the technology side. I just felt like out of my depth, like I didn't know anything, like I, the number of cables necessary intimidated me. Like all of it was just like too much. And so it probably took like 12 to 15 years of like being a recording industry professional before I got like a proper mic setup. I mean, come on. I was recording through like a terrible USB mic for a while. So I would say that like, especially if your goal is songwriting and if your goal is being weird, that it's like the more that you write and the more that you record, regardless of what you're recording and writing on, like the better. So if you're waiting to like make songs until you have the perfect setup, like that's the mistake, like do what you got to do. um and if you need help, like ask people if they want to collaborate, because the nice thing about dance music is that there's not a ton of songwriters. There's a lot of great producers who need songwriters, and so I definitely found that like having and honing a skill set that I was good at was a better use of my time and energy and kind of creative input than trying to get really good at things that I was not really interested in, kind of intimidated by, and that other people could do much better.
So how would you say you have honed your skills as a singer and a songwriter?
So there's a process. There's like, for me, I do, if you're unaware and if this is something of note, it's actually, I think, very helpful from any creative individual or professional. But there's this thing called The Artist's Way. It's a book by Julia Cameron. It was written like 30 years ago. And it's basically kind of a series of exercises and like rituals, almost like a creative practices to help you keep your knives as sharp as possible creatively. Are you familiar with The
I
Artist's
am,
Way?
yeah. It's a 12 weeks.
Great.
There's 12 chapters, and you're supposed to do it over 12 weeks.
Perfect.
And you're supposed to do it in a group.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do it in a group. You can do it solo. So for me, the morning pages is really important. That's just like three long hand pages every day, no matter what.
Absolute
And
game changer, right? Real game changer.
game changer. Thank you, Alex,
Hmm.
for seconding the morning pages is
Yeah,
like
huge.
a life altering practice.
Really is, yeah.
So for me, the writing every day is important. So writing the morning pages, if there's something particular, if the song comes out in the morning pages, I transfer it immediately to a secret Tumblr, so it's accessible on my phone. Because if you do morning pages every day, then it's easily going to get lost in the kind of melee. You're gonna be like, which notebook was that, or what page was it? So transferring quickly the information is, I think, a very important part of being able to organize a creative life. And then also I have a kind of running note on my phone in case things come up, and voice notes on my phone in case things come up, like while I'm in the middle of stuff and don't have access to my blog. I will just auto dictate into the phone. And that, I think, you don't know if you're going to have the idea again. You don't know if it's going to stay. You don't know if it's going to come back. So like the best practice, at least in my case, who has a terrible memory and like is easily distracted, is just to like get it down while you can. Because like You don't know when the muse is going to visit you. um, and yeah, so to kind of um, have a daily practice is really important, and then kind of from there, yeah, be able to organize your output. Very important. And yeah, I guess to like, there's this very helpful John Cage. I guess it's attributed to John Cage. I'm not sure who it's by, but it's like 10 commandments of an artist. And it's like, one of them is do not create and analyze at the same time. And I try and think about that often, um, because if I get too kind of in my head about the self-critical part and like try and make it like again too perfect, like it really stops up the flow. And so the goal is to kind of continue to flow forward. And if you need to change it after, or if you're like, I don't know about that part, then like cool, but don't do the analysis part while you're making it. And certainly don't ask for input until you're ready to actually receive feedback, because it's such a tender thing, you know?
The advice I got was to separate it into the editor, well, to separate it into the creator mind and the editor mind, and do that away from the DAW. So obviously you're making music and being creative and having fun and being playful, and then you can bounce it out as a file, and then not in the DAW, you're listening to it either in headphones or in a different environment, and then you can be the editor, you can make your notes, and it's best to do that 3 days, at least 3 days after you've made the record, or made the idea. And in that creative mind, it's very similar to the morning pages, where you're just free writing. You're making music freely without any judgment of style or quality or reverbs on a kick drum or anything like that. Not that you put reverb on a kick drum, but you know what I mean. It's just like super free and playful, and then you can come and be the judge and be the editor after that.
Totally. And also I think that that play space is really like, it's paramount, because it's where some really good and interesting and innovative ideas of doing like what you're not supposed to be doing, like using distortion as an instrument, for example, start to be more like it. You can get some really cool and unique and special kind of moments in that. Like I recently, I think also that in terms of the kind of creative practice and setup, like I think it is great to work with others and to be able to kind of learn how other people access that space, because it can be different for everyone. It can be such a beautiful thing to kind of like watch somebody in that zone and then kind of support it and play with it back and forth. I recently had a session here with a producer called La Fraîcheur, and she is really good. Her like practice is to kind of record a bunch of audio and then slice up the good parts, and then like kind of almost meditatively like put them together in ways until something kind of fits like a feeling that she's going for. It's like almost like a, I don't know, it's like a moving meditation. And I feel so excited about what we made, because like every sound was either breath or guitar, and it sounds like a dance track. Like it doesn't sound like an like avant-garde like, I don't know, like art rock thing, you know. And I was just so impressed by like, oh man, like I had no idea that's how you were working, and like now I can see it in her production, but like I would have had no idea, you know. So it can be such a helpful thing to be like, wow, how do other people kind of access that space, especially given the our own technical limitations, you know, because we all have like fortes and things that we're really comfortable with and our go-to tools, and then we all have things that we're like, I don't like that. Like I don't know how to do that. And it can be such a fun and like enriching process to play with other people like that.